Hello and welcome to the Lady Stairs Knits podcast. My name is Sarah and I'm really excited to be back on the video to tell you about the things that I've been working on for the past 2 weeks. So let's jump right in and I will tell you about what I'm wearing. This is sort of a combination of a few different patterns and a few ideas just from my head. It began in autumn 2019 when I was in Argyle Yarn Shop, which is a yarn shop in Park Slope in Brooklyn, Park Slope Windsor Terrace, which at that point in time was my local yarn shop. And I had been looking at this color by Ching Fibers for months. Ever since I walked into the store for the first time, this color, the yellow, had caught my eye and I just hadn't been able to stop thinking about it. Eventually, I bought it and I planned to make a ripple crop top by Jessie Maed Designs. This was quite early on in my garment making experience, so I didn't really know what I liked to wear, what I liked to knit, what would hold up well as a garment, and you can really tell that based on every decision that I made when I was conceiving of this project. The yarn is a single ply fingering weight merino, and the pattern, the ripple crop top, is an all over ribbed design. You might be thinking, Sarah, that's not a ripple crop top. And yeah, it's not a ripple crop top. It ended up being something completely different. I knit the body in 2019, sort of through the beginning of 2020. It took a really long time because it was on 3.5mm needles and it was all over rib, which I did not enjoy working on, and I found the yarn to be really splitty and difficult to work with, despite the amazing color. So it took me a really long time to knit the body, and then when the pandemic arrived, I just did not want to knit it anymore. I put it at the back of my mind, back of the whips drawer that I had at the time, and I didn't really think about it again until August last year when I pulled it out and I saw, oh, this is an amazing color. I really want to finish this, but I no longer want a ripple crop top. I wear my knitted summer tops a lot, probably my most worn knitted type of thing, I guess, other than socks. Because in the summer I wear them constantly, and then in the winter I also wear them a lot over like a long sleeve turtleneck or a mesh sort of turtleneck. They're just constantly getting worn. I made the moonlight tee by Knitting for Breakfast, and I think that that's my most worn knitted item. So, and other similar things have also seen a lot of use, like at my ranunculus has seen quite a lot of use, and I've made a few other designs by Jessie Maed. So yeah, a sort of good starting point. But I found that when I returned to this work in progress a few years later, all of the pictures that I liked were on people who were making different sizes than I was going to make. And as the sizes got bigger, I personally didn't really like the way that the sleeves looked, like the whole shoulder sleeve area. I thought I just didn't really want to do that. So I was trying to figure out what else I could do. And I had made a while ago the Carbeth sweater by Kate Davies. I think that was one of the first, maybe my second sweater jumper that I'd ever knit. And I loved the design. I really liked the way that the raglan comes to a point and then there's a turtleneck, and I thought that would work well in rib. I could definitely see myself wearing another one of those. But I had only bought 2 skeins of this yellow yarn, and I scoured the internet and I could not find another skein that I could buy. I did find one in a Japanese yarn store, but they didn't ship to the US, and I didn't even know if it would be the same dye lot or anywhere close. So it wasn't really a viable thing for me to buy. So I looked through my stash for other fingering weight single ply merino, which I do actually have a number of skeins that fit that description. I don't really buy single ply yarn now just because I don't find it wears particularly well. But I used to because of all the wonderful colors that single ply yarns are sold dyed up in. And I settled on this color to be the contrast. I just knew that 2 skeins was not enough to make something that had long sleeves and a turtleneck, and my heart set on doing this Kate Davies design inspiration. So this one is the color Plump. I think it's by Hedgehog Fibers. I don't remember this color. Biscuit. Oh, it's Biscuit by Ching Fiber. So I had the plan, I'd chosen the yarn, I had knit the body, I decided I would knit the arm, both of the arms, and then do the raglan, which is what I did. I knit it flat with the 2 pieces separate but on the same needle so that I was making sure I had the same amount of rows, and I had 1 selvage stitch at this join, and I did the decreases on the body, and then at the end I seamed this all the way from the underarm up the neck and then on the back together. The result of one of these seams being sewn and the other one being like a seamless knit does result in there being a bit of a different feel to the 2 sides, which it actually isn't that bad. It's probably not something that I would do again or would recommend to someone else to do in the same way that I did it, but I do think that it looks really cool, and I haven't really seen anything else like it anywhere. I know that Stephen West, I think, has a jumper that has 1 sleeve a different color, but I only saw that recently. I know it came out a while ago. I hadn't seen it, and I've never seen anything that looks remotely like this in the wild. So it's kind of cool to have something a bit different. I do love this color. I have a lot of respect and admiration for my past self for knitting this. I would never do a fingering weight all over ribbed a long sleeve ever again, I think. Maybe I shouldn't say ever again, but I certainly have no desire to do a project like this again. And I'm kind of sorry to say, but it's really not holding up well because it's a single ply. I don't know if you can see, but it's really pilling almost all over, and I have not worn this a huge amount. So that's a little bit disappointing just because so much work went into it, and it just goes to show like the experience that you get from knitting and from trying out different things and from just, for me at least, making so many mistakes until I finally realized what would make something that will last and look good for a long time. That really is valuable information to have. Like, but if someone had told me back then, oh, don't knit a garment in single ply yarn, I would absolutely not have listened. I would have said I can do whatever I want. And I maintain, yes, you can do whatever you want, but sometimes a little bit of advice is for the best. So the sleeves are 3/4 length, not on purpose, just due to the nature of the rib, and I was very limited on the yellow yarn. This was as long as I could get the sleeves to be, but I don't mind that, and it fits really, really well. I love the Carbeth design. I just think that it's really beautiful. I think that it works really well in the rib. It really highlights the different directions that the stitches are going. The turtleneck is about this tall, so fine to wear up. It's the summer, although it's not too hot today, so I have been wearing it tucked down today. And that's about all of the information that I have for you on this finished object. Let me know what you think about it, if you want to. I know that Jessie Maed just released a new design, which I have been a bit tempted by. The ripple, is it ripple? It's like a halter top, but I think that this is not the design for me. So I'm trying to resist casting it on, even though I see a lot of pictures of it and I think it looks pretty nice. I just don't think that that's right for me. I do want to make some of her other designs, but I really need to try and like fight the trend of the ripple halter, because I don't think that I would get much wear out of that in particular. So that's what I'm wearing. Now let's move on to the knitting that I have been doing over the past 2 weeks. I have 2 finished objects and a number of works in progress. Well, 1 and a bit finished object. The first finished object, the one that is not under question about whether it is actually a finished object or not, is this dishcloth. In my last episode, which got a really high number of views, so welcome if you're new from the last episode. I showed this yarn as an acquisition in that episode. I'd bought Purl Soho had an introductory offer on this new yarn that they came out with. It's called Home Life. It's cotton, and it's really expensive for how much you get, but I just loved it. I thought that it looked so nice. I was so intrigued by the way that it looked. I wanted to know how it would knit up, how it would feel. I've never knit a washcloth before, so I did. And here is the first one. Took me, I don't know, a couple hours to knit. I used 4mm needles, cast on 40 stitches, and then just knit until it was square. And then I did this little I-cord loopy. I think that it's supposed to shrink quite a bit the first time you wash it, so I'm excited to see what the texture will be like after that happens. But here, I'll give you a close-up of what this texture is now. I love it. I think it would be amazing to make like a wee stuffed toy out of this yarn if you want to spend that much money on a stuffed toy that you're making. And yeah, I have about this much left. I followed the Purl Soho sort of pattern on their website, which was really just cast on 40 stitches, knit a square. It's free. I'm not giving anything away. Mine ended up being quite a bit bigger than it said in the pattern, but that's fine. And I think I'm gonna knit up the other 2 into washcloths soon as well. I've already balled up one of them. Here it is. I love the colors. I couldn't get this to work on my ball winder, but since it's only 60 odd meters, it's not that big of a deal. I just got my boyfriend to hold it on his hands while I balled it up. And I like it. I probably won't make any more purchases of this yarn, but I'm quite chuffed. I like this. It's just such like a satisfying object. So that's my first finished object. In a way, my next finished object is a finished 1/3 of an object, but it's going to stay in this form for probably quite a while, and it is like a functional thing, so I think it counts as a finished object. Also, it took me months and months and months. What I'm talking about is the Ellsworth scarf. It's by Rohr, and the pattern I think was published with or via Brooklyn Tweed. I didn't make it in that yarn. I made it in Holst Super Soft in the colors almond and black. And the intention for this is to make 3 of these and then seam them together along the long side. So it gives the impact of an Ellsworth Kelly painting. But you can also just wear it as a scarf. I do plan on making the other 2 panels, but this took so long that I might take a bit of a break from it, and then maybe take like a month and really dedicate myself to making like the next panel, as opposed to having it on the needle for years. I started this less than 2 years ago, but not much less than 2 years ago, as a buddy knit with my friend. I do think that it's gorgeous. I love the black and white. I just got a phone call and now I don't really remember what I had been saying about this, but this was knit on 3.5mm needles in Holst Super Soft, which is a fingering weight yarn. So it is a fingering weight scarf. And it's done with short rows. So the pattern has a series of modules, and then each module will tell you which type of wedge to knit. Each wedge is a different type of short row combination to get a different type of slope, and then a number of like garter rows to knit in between, and then the top type of wedge. I guess it's a trapezoid. But this is where I was last time, where this, I was showing you the back, where this marker was. It probably takes me like 3 hours to knit each wedge, maybe more. I wouldn't underestimate the amount of time that this shawl takes. And the black I found very difficult to knit when it wasn't bright daylight. So there's like a shallow wedge, a shallow slope, a medium slope, and a steep slope. And it's just different combinations of those types of slopes on different sides. I used German short rows for part of this and then wrap and turns for the next part, only based on whatever short row I had most recently used in a project. For German short rows, you have to add a stitch because the pattern is written for wrap and turn. So if you don't add a stitch, it ends up looking wobbly, like mine does at the beginning, before I figured that out. Yeah, I haven't washed this yet. I know that it will change quite a lot as the spinning oil gets washed out of the whole Super Soft. And I do think I'm going to have to be a bit careful when I wash it because I don't want the black to bleed onto this almond color. But I love this shawl. I'm just really excited to have it, although maybe I'll have it finished by this coming winter. That would be cool. But I'm chuffed to have the scarf done. I don't think that I'll wash it until the other ones are done, although I can't promise that I will hold myself to that, because I've read in some other people's Ravelry notes that the middle section, which is what this is longer than the other two. Seems like a pattern error, but should not be happening. But I figure if I just wait to wash this, I can see how much shorter it is and just add some extra rows so that they're more the same length when I seam them up to make that easier. So I spent quite a lot of time working on this over the past 2 weeks. No regrets. I thought I had woven all the ends in, but there's 2 more for me to weave in. That is my Ellsworth scarf. Now for my works in progress. The number one thing that I have been meaning to work on for the past probably few weeks is a cardigan that I am making out of some wool produced by a friend of mine on his farm that he has with his fiance. They have Angora goats. I think it's the most northern flock of Angora goats in the UK, which is cool. And they've recently started producing yarn. As soon as they released their yarn, like posted about it online, they made sure to get some, and it's stunning. Their farm is called Anfield Angoras, and my private goal is to finish a cardigan made out of their yarn in time for their wedding, which they are having on the farm. So maybe I'll get to meet the goats and I'll wear my cardigan, or I'll just bring it. And I think that will be very cool and very satisfying. A few weeks ago, when I was in LA for a week, I decided that the project I would bring that week would be the sleeves, and I would dedicate all of the time while I was away to knitting the sleeves, which I did. The pattern is the Botanist cardigan by Thea Coleman, and it is a pretty intense cabled, a bit oversized bottom-up cardigan with a sort of set-in sleeve design. So here are the sleeves. There's 2 of them. I did the sleeves 2 at a time, which was the first time I had done that. I found it extremely confusing, just because I'd never done that technique before. And I think that I really enjoyed having the sleeves finished at the same time, but I did not enjoy knitting them at the same time. So the practice that I think I will continue is knitting the sleeves simultaneously, but I don't think that I will be doing a complicated, for me, cable project like this again. Because like I made a mistake on the cuffs, and instead, when I realized instead of just having to rip out one of them, I had to go back on both of them. So that's the sort of thing that you wouldn't have if you just made the sleeves one at a time and then realized your mistakes. So for the sleeves, they have this cable panel in the middle, which I love, and then this reverse stockinette at the sides. They seem quite big, but I can always just overlap them a bit when I'm seaming under the arms. I think that would be fine. So I'm really excited to have those finished. Makes me really feel more comfortable with my timeline, because I thought that I had loads of time, and now I feel like I don't have very much time. The wedding is in the first week of July, so that's about a month away. Oh god, it's about a month away. I've got to get going on this project. At least I already have the sleeves done. When I spoke to you last time, I hadn't cast on the body yet. So my goal was to cast on the body, complete the ribbing, and do maybe an inch or 2 of the body. I am planning on cropping the cardigan a little bit so that it's sort of high to mid hip length. I think that that will be really nice. And since it's quite a sturdy, the yarn is at quite a tight gauge, it's going to be a bit oversized so that I can wear another jumper under it and it can be more of a versatile outerwear piece, if that's weather appropriate. But it's still like really soft and nice, so I would be able to wear it like under a big coat if I needed to, but it probably would break quite a bit of the wind. So that's my intention. So it's going to be a bit oversized, it's going to be a little bit cropped, but not too cropped. And I have reached my goals from my last podcast. Everybody is surprised. So let me show you. Here is the front. It's got this interesting, to me, I've never seen this before, wrapped column within the cable. And then there's this wee cable that goes into the ribbing, which I think is beautiful. There's a braid motif. The sides are double moss stitch with a reverse stockinette panel, which will go around the, like right under the arms. Oops, I dropped the ball. The pattern doesn't have any waist shaping in it, but in the pattern it says if you want to do waist shaping, you would put it into this panel. I really like that. It's just such a well thought out design element. Like, even if there is no waist shaping in the written pattern, the designer knows that a lot of people will want to add that in, and so has made that easy if people want to do that. I just really appreciate that. And then there's a bigger cable panel at the back. I don't know how much of this will be legible at this point in time, but I'm making good progress on it. I've got about 4 inches here, 4.5 inches, so I'm well on my way to the body being halfway done. But I've only worked on this for the past week, so I think in the next week I could probably finish the body, because I do knit the cabled sections faster than I knit the rib. And then if I can, I just think it'll be fine. I think that I'll have enough time to do it. So far, this much and both of the sleeves has taken up about 2.5 skeins. And I have 8, so I'll definitely have enough to finish it. My second work in progress is not so much of a success story. It is yet again the Radishes socks by Stone Knits. Featured in countless episodes of my podcast, and also many, many months of my life at this point. I just can't stop making mistakes when I'm knitting these socks. Finally figured out what I was doing wrong, but let me walk you through my process of knitting these. First sock, beautiful. It went off without a hitch. I love it. I love the color work at the toe. I really like the radish designs, love the colors. It's all from Stash. Only good things to say about it. Second sock, I knit it, and then I was binding off for the toe, and I realized I had 15 too many stitches. On a 64 stitch sock, 15 stitches is a lot. That's a lot to have. That's too much for me to have and be able to wear it with the other sock, which was 64 stitches, and not really notice the difference. So I unraveled it back to, I think, like the heel flap, and then I picked up the stitches again, and I decided, okay, well, I'll just decrease so that I end up with the right number of stitches. And I started the decreases where the decreases were started, and I decreased until I had 64 stitches. Well, the decreases went down like wrapping under the foot. I was pretty confused. I didn't know why that was happening. So I knit the rest of the foot, I tried it on, and it's just like, it's not comfortable to have the gusset continue under your foot as much as it was continuing. And I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out why this was happening. I pulled it out again, and I realized that I had too many stitches on hold for the top of the foot, for the heel flap as well. I was very confused. I didn't really understand how that had happened. So I thought, well, I'll just move the decreases a little bit around and then decrease so that it'll be even on the top and the bottom. I won't have the gusset going under the foot. I was doing that, and it just looked weird. And then I realized that there was a row you increase for the colorwork section, and then there's a row of decreases under the colorwork section where you decrease back down to the 64, and I had just forgotten that. So I had knit basically this whole sock 3 times, but I hadn't done the decrease row under the radishes at the top, so I was always with the wrong number of stitches. And I decided, you know what, just unravel it, just do it. 4th time is the charm. That's what people say when they get it wrong for the first 3 times. So that's what I did. I did the decrease row, and now I'm working my way back down the leg. Being stubborn is a personality trait of mine, and I just want these to be right. I also want them to be done. I was playing Yarn Chicken big time with this gray color, which I used in my shawlography. No, my Slipstravaganza shawl. But since I've already knit the colorwork at the toe once with more stitches, I know that it will be fine. This is how much of that color I have left, and it will, I know that this is enough because I've already knit the colorwork once with it. So who knows when this will be done. At this point, I'm not going to make any promises because I'm just going to keep unraveling it until it's right. I do love the sock. The color this is actually called Thea. I think I called it Twig in my last episode. Oh, these are just some stitch markers to count how many rows in the foot. Twig is a sport weight sock, but sport weight yarn, but it's working fine. I just wanted to use stash. I think that this is called an Eye of Partridge heel. And actually, this magenta color is the same color that's in my jumper that I'm wearing, which is Plump by Hedgehog Fibers, and the green is Ivy by Malabrigo. And the gray is called Ernest Shaw, which is by Neighborhood Fiber Co., but I don't think that they make that color anymore. So that's the update for my radish sock. Yeah, I just have to keep trying. Eventually they'll be done and I can knit a different pair of socks. And I'm really excited for when that happens, but I still like these. They're my downstairs knitting. So I knit them while I'm watching TV or while we have friends over, which is probably why I kept making mistakes, because I never really concentrate fully on them. I have one more work in progress to show you, and it's probably my most exciting work in progress. I guess the cable cardigan you could say is my most exciting, but I think that this one's really exciting. It's the Oneiro cardigan by Hanna Lübben. It was in the Pom Pom Quarterly, I think 49. It was the dream themed one with all the mohair. I love that episode. I love that Pom Pom edition. It's just gorgeous. There's so many patterns that I think are beautiful that were in that one, and this one immediately stood out to me. So I will show you what I have. I hope that this is showing up. It is a cardigan which combines brioche and cabling, and it's done from the sleeve and you work inward. It's knit with 3 strands of mohair at a time, and a fade is encouraged, but not required. But I am like really excited about the fade. So let me first just give you a close-up of I'm working with a lot of different yarns. It all began when I purchased 4 skeins of orange Pioki from Purl Soho, which is this color, in 2019 to make a different project. When I knit the swatch holding together orange mohair with dark green merino, it looked really stupid to me. It just looked like a bad piece of sports team memorabilia, just like the way that the colors looked together. So I never ended up making that, but I had all of this yarn left, and I love this color of orange. I've spoken in the past about how orange is one of my favorite colors, and I've been sort of waiting to figure out what to do with it. And then a few years later, I bought this in 2019, so it was the next year, 2020. Purl Soho, for some reason, discontinued almost all of their orange and yellow mohair, and they put it all on sale, and I bought a bunch of it. So I bought this color, I don't remember what it was called. Maybe highlighter, maybe lightning, something like that. I bought this color. I don't remember what, oh, this one is called Mimosa, I bought this color, which I haven't gotten to yet in the fade. This one is called Squash Blossom. So here it is. Now, since the strands are being held 3 ways, I didn't have enough mohair. So I bought more mohair that is yellow and orange from Hedgehog Fibers. And I got a neon yellow, which is basically the exact same color as this. I bought a color called Egg Yolk, I think, which is this, which is almost a perfect match for the yellow from Purl Soho. And I bought this color, which is called Pollen, which isn't really a match for Squash Blossom, but I haven't really decided what I'm gonna do when I get to this stage yet. So, oh, and I realized that this also worked really well in the fade. And this is a mohair by Biche Bouche. I think it's like dark red brown. It looks just like a beautiful brick red to me. So all of them together will look like this. Since it is you're holding them 3 strands together, you can really get a smooth fade. I've never done a fade before, and I really love this. This is the sleeve, one of the sleeves. It's going to look like this. It's got a little cable detail with baubles, and yeah. This is a pretty involved knitting pattern, mostly because the brioche is shorter than the cable stitch. So for every 3 brioche rows, you knit 2 cable rows. So it involves a lot of short rows that go on either side of this middle panel. So it's a little bit of an involved knit. But the middle panel isn't charted, it's just written. I could just make a chart. I probably should, because it's only like a 10-row repeat, but just because I read charts a lot better than I read written instructions for cables. I love knitting brioche. It was one of the first knitting techniques that I ever did when I started knitting seriously when I was in college. I made endless brioche hats. So that's something that I really enjoyed doing, and I love the texture. I've been planning this project for months. Ever since the Pom Pom magazine was first teased, I knew that I was going to make this cardigan. And I can't believe more people haven't been making it, but every time I see a new project on Ravelry, I get really excited. And last week, I just decided to cast it on. I have cast on the other sleeve, but I've only done the ribbing. There was an error in the pattern for it's not ribbing, but for the cuff, which is double knit, and that really messed me up. Like, I had to restart it a number of times. So make sure you check the errata if you plan on making anything from something that is in print and not just a PDF by an independent designer, because it would have saved me a lot of time if I had checked the errata. But I'm loving working with it. I'm loving the fade. I'm really excited for the next color. The main body is going to be orange. So I think that I'm just going to, this comes to about here. I didn't use up all of the neon yellow because I didn't really want there to be that much neon yellow, but I want there to be a good chunk of this color, and then I'll start fading it into orange maybe when I get to like the top of the sleeve. So then the most of the body will be orange, and maybe I'll do like the ribbing edging with this darker color because I think that would look really nice. This isn't going to be finished anytime soon. It takes quite a while, but I really enjoy working on it to mix it up a little bit from my cabled cardigan, although I think that I'm probably going to have to focus on that much more over the next few weeks to get it done in time. for the wedding. But really enjoying working on that. So exciting to cast on a project that I've been planning on doing for such a long time, and it's just really enjoyable. And props to the amazing designing. Here was the swatch that I made for it, by the way. Oh, and it's knit on 4.5mm needles. I don't have any acquisitions this time. I haven't bought any yarn in the past 2 weeks, which is great. Good for me. But I do have some swatches to show you. I've made 2 new swatches for some upcoming projects, and I will love to take you through them. The first swatch is for a pattern that I've been planning for a long time, just like the Oneiro pattern, and it is the Roosty tank top by Ella Gordon. It was in the Shetland Wool Week annual for 2021. I actually have it right here. The Crofter's Cap, which I had made last time I showed you, that is also from that book, and I think that they're supposed to release the pattern, the free hat pattern for this year's Shetland Wool Week, like any day now, so I'm really excited. I want to knit that. But I've been playing around with swatches for the Roosty tank top. The first one that I made a couple months ago is this one. I went to a knitting store in New Jersey with my boyfriend, and we picked out the colors for the Roosty tank top. I didn't want to do the colors that were in the pattern because I didn't really want to make like a teal tank top. I wanted to make like a sage and forest green, but I wanted it to have the same like feel. So these were the colors that we chose. This was the swatch I made. I will put on the screen now a photoshopped image of this swatch, but repeated, so you get an idea of what it would look like in a garment. Because this is, I mean, this is a very good tool, but it's quite hard to know what it will look like when it's repeated many, many times. So that's on the screen now. Take a look at that. Basically, I just felt like the orange, the medium orange, was too dark, and it was taking away from the shapes that were in the pattern, and I wasn't really happy with the way that it was looking. So I wanted to try it with a lighter color of the same, lighter value of the same color. So I bought a number of different wools, but it turns out that the one that was right, in my opinion, had been in my stash the whole time. So here's a swatch of the new color scheme. So it's this light color, and I think you'll be able to see that this lighter orange color doesn't disrupt from the shapes that are in the pattern as much as this one did. I like it better. I'm trying to decide between having the contrast color, keeping it as the dark one, or keeping it as the medium one, or I could sort of alternate. So I also did the Photoshop with this swatch, which I'll put on the screen now, and I think that it's much more effective. It's also just so interesting to see like what it would look like as a big pattern. I'm really excited about this, and I think I'll do it for more color work if I ever, when I next make like a intense Fair Isle pattern. This swatch technique is, Ella Gordon did a video with either Jamieson's of Shetland or Jamieson and Smith talking about how she does swatches, and they produce just like the nicest objects. So it's a swatch that simulates knitting in the round, and then you cut the edges, and I tied them all into knots at the edge, and it's like a nice mug rug or something. I keep them around, and it's really useful for measuring and that sort of thing because it's quite big. It does take quite a bit of time to knit up, but I find them very, very useful. So I don't know when I will cast this on. I do think that I will use one of these combinations as opposed to this combination. Let me know what you think, which one you like, the darker contrast or the lighter contrast. My parents like the darker one, but my gran said that she likes the lighter one. And I don't know which one I like the best. And now I'm a bit hesitant to choose a side. Yeah, let me know. I probably will cast this on as soon as I finish the big cabled mohair cardigan. My other swatch that I've made recently is this. I wonder if you will be able to see it. The story of this goes back kind of far. I am a big fan of the TV show Schitt's Creek, and I love all of David's jumpers. Some of them I love because they're hideous, and some of them I just love and I think that they're amazing and I want them, and they're all so expensive. That's like part of the genius of the show is the costume design. There was one episode where I really liked David's jumper. Skip 10 seconds ahead now if you don't want a spoiler for Schitt's Creek. It's the episode where Patrick proposes to David. He's wearing this jumper which is black and it has like stripes of fuzziness. And I was so into it. I think it's amazing. It looks a little bit Dr. Seuss-y, but in a fun way. So I wanted to figure out if I could replicate that and make it for myself. So I made this swatch. I found a pattern by Sari Nordlund that I thought could be a really good base for me. I wanted a set-in sleeve, but also oversized design, and I wanted it to have quite a high neck. This is an experiment that I did where I played around 2 strands of whole super soft in black, just because this is the only black yarn that I have. And then this first one is, I dropped down to 1 strand and I used 1 strand of mohair along with it. And maybe at an angle you can see it better. This next stripe is 1 strand of super soft and 2 strands of mohair. And then this last one is 2 strands of super soft and 2 strands of mohair. I think that I prefer the feeling of either the 1 strand of mohair or the 2 strand with the 1 strand of whole super soft. I'm a bit more tempted to go for the 1 strand just because I don't have that much of this black mohair. Saying that, I could always just get some more once I get to that point in the project. I'm not too worried about color matching exactly since it's black. So this is something that I'm really excited about, and I had a lot of fun looking for a pattern that would work and knitting this swatch, and I love how the stripes feel quite different from each other. So I think that I would really get a lot of wear out of that in a fun way. So maybe that will be a project that I knit on in the late summer or in the autumn. But I have the swatch now, and I have a lot of motivation to do it because I really love the swatch. And I think that the pattern that I'm basing it on, which I will put on the screen, I don't remember the name, I think that that will work really nicely. So that's all of the knitting that I have to show you today. Hope that you've enjoyed this video. Welcome to all of the new subscribers and viewers. Welcome back if you're a returning viewer. It's so exciting to see my small channel get a bit more of a reach. And please subscribe if you want to. Last time I set out some goals for the next 2 weeks of knitting. I made some of them. One of them was to work on the ribbed cardigan, and another one I think was to finish the radish socks. This time, no radish sock goal from me. I just want to not have to unravel it another time. But I will make a goal, and that is to make serious headway on the cabled Angora jumper. I'm going to Scotland for a few weeks, so at the end of June, so I'm not really sure what my upload schedule will look like. I don't know if I will film anything there or not, but maybe I will. So I'm really excited to be going there. I'm sure that I will be doing a lot of knitting no matter where I am, and I hope that you've enjoyed this video. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.